So a new opinion poll has just came out, and it shows that 45% of the British public want more immigrants to leave the country than new immigrants arriving. And this could also be described as remigration. Now, this is a really good step to see, because politicians on the right, like Reform UK, Nigel Farage, they've only ever talked about reducing immigration. Nigel Farage says we need a big reduction in immigration, but they never talk about reversing it, right? It's like, you can't say that too many people came in under the Conservatives or under the Labour government before that, and then your policy to solve that problem is to just reduce the rate at which new people arrive, because it doesn't address the problem of the people that are already here. If you actually want to solve the problem, you need to send people home, whether it's through voluntary incentives or through forcing them to leave. And it's good to see that a plurality of the public want remigration. Now, the poll did also show some other silly things, like people think that illegal immigrants are more common than legal immigrants, which obviously isn't true. But one of the problems we've got is that politicians spend a lot more time talking about illegal immigration than legal immigration, because that's what it is a distraction. Only 5% of immigrants come on the boats. It's not the people on the boats that are going to reduce the native British people to a minority in their own country. It's people coming in legally on planes with visas. That's the real problem. And it's good to see that people support reversing immigration. I mean, Nigel Farage would say that it's too extreme to deport people that are already here, but a lot of people think that. How can it be extreme? It's a sensible, moderate position at this point. Like, we're past the point where saying we want remigration is controversial. We're now at the point where it's a normal, common position for moderate people to hold. The average Reform UK voter has a stance on immigration that is much, much tougher than Nigel Farage's own personal stance. And the problem that we as nationalists have got is that the masses don't realise that. The public thinks that Nigel Farage is the most anti-immigration politician there ever is. They think that he's going to save this country, that he's the new Enoch Powell or whatever, when that just obviously isn't true. I mean, he supports net zero immigration, which still means 500,000 immigrants coming into the country every year. He doesn't want to deport illegal immigrants. He says that it's politically impossible, and that is not his ambition. And that's not where the public are at. I mean, the polling shows that a majority of people from all parties, right, not just Reform, Labour, Conservative and Liberal Democrat, a majority of people want mass deportations of illegal immigrants. And even Farage won't commit to mass deportations. And it's not because the public won't vote for it, because the polling shows that clearly the public do want it. And Donald Trump got elected in America campaigning on mass deportations, even though, unfortunately, he has failed to carry out his promises so far. So how would remigration be implemented, and who would be subject to remigration? I think the first thing that can be done is to strip the citizenship of everyone that does not have British heritage. Now, whether or not mixed race people would be included in this citizenship revoking or not is something that's up for debate, and it probably requires a video on its own, so I won't address it now. But the point is, people that do not have British heritage should have their citizenship removed, and then we can scrap indefinite leave to remain, which means that all non-citizens living here will not be entitled to the NHS, and they won't be able to claim benefits. And a lot of them will just leave voluntarily. They'll just go. However, most of them will just stay here because not everyone is on benefits. Not everyone has to use the NHS regularly. And even if they are on benefits, if they get their benefits taken, they might start working. But that's an improvement, but it's still not ideal, because then they're taking jobs from British people and they're suppressing the wages of the British people that already have jobs. So what we could do would be to set a deadline of, say, 12 months in the future, and say you can either leave before this point with your assets intact or with your assets sold. But if you don't leave before that point, then all of your assets will be seized by the government without compensation. So if a foreigner owns a house, they've got 12 months to sell it, and then they can leave the country with the money they've got from selling that house. But if they don't sell their house within 12 months, then after that point, the government will just take the house and they'll have to leave without the money. And I think if the government did do a policy of that, we could get the vast majority of foreigners to leave. Now, who would be eligible for this? Because some immigrants living here would be a good thing. But I think it would be better to remove everyone and then to look at who we can let in. Now, I am extremely against settlement immigration. I do not think that immigrants should have the rights to settle. But if we have an extreme shortage in a certain industry, then we need to train British people up to work in that area. But we could allow maybe 12-month work permits for people to come in and work in that industry until we've trained up enough British people. But there should be no path to settlement, and these permits should only come from European countries. We shouldn't be giving out permits for people from the third world, because they're just a security risk. I mean, if you look at the rape statistics, people from the third world commit far more rapes and other crimes than people from Europe. So if we have a shortage of people in a certain industry, then we can get Eastern European workers to come here temporarily until we've trained up enough British people. But ideally, over the long term, we will build up an economy that is, generally speaking, self-sufficient on the British people. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, then please leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.